A lot of things happening in the city of Winnipeg this weekend and tonight. Canada Summer Games in full swing. One of the things going on is the National Youth Orchestra of Canada is doing a nationwide tour to celebrate the 150 years anniversary of Canada. They're in town tonight at the concert hall. It is a free concert. Get that? It's a free concert. You get to see this amazing young orchestra in town to perform this evening. I'll give you more details about it. Well, conducting them for this evening's concert and for this tour is conductor Jonathan Darlington, and he's in the studio this morning. Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thanks very much for having me.
Much appreciated. Welcome to Winnipeg. You said this is your first time in the city of Winnipeg.
Yeah,
so
I was a virgin until
you were a
last night.
virgin. I'm glad you got the warmth and the sunshine
Yeah,
today.
nice.
We were talking off air a little bit about the winter, so we'll see if you show up in winter one day. I don't know.
Well,
Bring
I
your
won't be a
skates.
virgin anymore.
Bring your skates
Yeah.
and your jacket.
Yeah.
So anyway, welcome to Winnipeg. Before
Thank
we
you.
talk about this concert with the National Youth Orchestra, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and where you live and what your conducting background is? Because you've got you've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I guess I have. I never set out to conduct, actually. I was a chamber musician. I was a pianist and a viola player, but more of a pianist. And I did lots of recital work, so that's where I'm coming from. And then I ended up working in opera houses as a repetiteur. And from there was a short leap to taking over at short notice at the Paris Opera, the New Bastille Theatre, which was in 91, 92. The second production they did there was The Marriage of Figaro. And I'd been assistant on the first production, which was The Trojans. And they rang me up and said, so tomorrow can you conduct Marriage of Figaro? And I thought, because the conductor, I won't mention his name, he was not having a good time. He was getting booed by the public. The orchestra didn't like him. The singers didn't like him. And so they hauled me in. And I'd never conducted a major symphony orchestra in my life, you know. And it was a cast which contained René Fleming, Cecilia Bartoli, Ferruccio Furlanetto, all these, you know, major names. And that's how it started. And I was already in my mid-30s when that happened. And so that was in Paris. And I met my present wife in Paris. She was a prima ballerina with the company. And I've lived in Paris ever since. So that's, I've been there for over 20-odd years. I can't remember how many there are now. Mm-hmm. So that's home, is in Paris.
Wait, before we go further, how did that concert go? How did that first concert go?
I can't remember much about it, except that I was staying with a friend, and they were just converting this old factory in which I now live. And he just had his van. You know, he was a workman on the site. And so I remember going to the performance in my tails in the back of this van, which was used to carrying cement and logs and everything else around in.
High style.
That's all I can remember. Yeah, and that sort of situation is quite easy because, you know, they hated the last guy. so the new kid on the block is you know,
a welcome sight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and then you realize after that how difficult it is. Mm-hmm. You know, and I thought, well, I better get out and get some baggage. And so I left the Paris Opera, and I was freelance, and I went from one institution to another and ended up being music director of a major orchestra in Germany. At the same time, I took on the Vancouver Opera, and I'm still music director of Vancouver Opera.
Excellent.
So, it was an auspicious start, but something I never set out to do.
Mm-hmm. Start out on a full sprint.
Yeah, exactly.
So the National Youth Orchestra of Canada, you've been connected to them before, so this is sort of like a return to the National Youth Orchestra. When were you first with them?
So this was the first time was about 6 years ago, I think. And Barbara Smith, who is the wonderful director of the whole enterprise, she had been trying to get me back ever since, but I hadn't been free until this year. But the reason I got into the loop, as it were, was because one of the board members is a trombonist in my Vancouver Opera Orchestra, Sharman King, and he said to Barbara, "Oh, you've got to get this guy to come and do a tour with you," and that's how it happened. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I'm here is because of Vancouver.
Okay, so when you're conducting a youth orchestra, how different is it from conducting a sort of professional full-time orchestra? Well,
I try and treat them exactly the same. Mm-hmm. So, straight up, I say, I'm treating you like professionals, and you have to behave like professionals and do the work like professionals. Mm-hmm. I think if you start trying to treat people any differently, then, you've got the age group between 16 and 28. So you're not going to treat a 28-year-old, like someone who's just setting out. Mm-hmm. So I treat everybody as if they're professionals, and if they don't act like professionals, then I say so. And everything seems to be okay.
Is it a challenge because they're sort of coming together? They're not a full-time orchestra, so they're coming together from different parts of the country. They have different influences from people they study with, and what are the challenges with that?
Yeah, I mean, there is. We've only been together for 3 weeks or something as a group. Me with them. I mean, they've been together earlier because they do chamber music. It's a great course for the students because they have chamber music with top-rate musicians from all across North America, as they do for the orchestral stuff, because they're coached by major people from these fantastic orchestras. But we've only been together as a group for 3 weeks or so. So you have to work very intensively and very efficiently, but that you would have to do in a normal professional situation anyway. So even that's no different. And because they're so eager and they're so talented, it's easy to pull them all together.
And they come from all over Canada.
They come from all over Canada.
Even from Winnipeg.
Even from there, 9 of them from Winnipeg.
9 of them from Winnipeg.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
So they're from all over the country, which is a big place. I mean, me coming from Europe, you go through 7 time zones or something in this country, which is going from Paris to the other end of Europe and back again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Takes as long.
Yeah. So it's fantastic, and it's a great group. This is a wonderful group of students this year. Really fantastic. And I think the concert we're doing tonight, which is Prokofiev, the classical symphony, Mussorgsky Pictures and exhibition. Then we take a break, and then the second half it's the Unsilent Project, which is of course specially done for this year for the 150th anniversary.
Give us more details about that. What is the Unsilent Project?
So the Unsilent Project is based around texts written by the slam poet Zaccheus Jackson, who died in a tragic accident not so long ago, and he was a First Nations poet. So we have First Nations artists, and it's trying to combine First Nations with Canada 150 to talk about that whole issue in a musical and textual setting. And then we segue right into Strauss's tone poem Death and Transfiguration. So the transfiguration, the hope of something better beyond, as it were, and the way that we can engage in a meaningful dialogue and progress to something which is hopeful for everyone. So it's a wonderful project, and it's been a very interesting, deep, meaningful process for all concerned, I think.
So it's new music, I suppose, almost
so
like a new music.
So there are 2 pieces written by 2 Canadian composers, Ian Cusson and Juliet, and her piece is called Invicta, which is interwoven in the music is text from Zaccheus Jackson, and Ian's piece is based on a Zaccheus Jackson poem. A Child's Bright Eyes, it's called.
So you saw them for the first time a few weeks ago, or you
I
introduced
saw them for
them?
the first, and I saw the music for the first time a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that's what I mean, the music.
Yeah. And we worked together in the sessions we had up in Laurier University, just outside Toronto. Waterloo. Yeah. And we spent sort of a week thrashing it all out together, and the result, I think, is really quite impressive. It's very interesting. And it's had reactions which have been very positive up and down the country so far, or at least across the country so far. We haven't been up so far yet, but we make it up to Whitehorse soon. So it's really, really interesting. As someone coming into this whole situation from seeing it from afar, as it were, and my whole I'm British, so we have. We should be discussing this as well, as British people. So it's been fascinating and really rewarding and very eye-opening.
I'm in the studio with Jonathan Darlington. He's in town to conduct the National Youth Orchestra of Canada. They've got a free concert tonight. They're doing a cross-country tour called Edges of Canada, which is a Canada 150 signature project. What's on the horizon for you? I know you're going to be deep in this for the next little while, and then what are your projects coming up?
Well, yeah, we end up in Vancouver actually on the 15th. And then I fly back to Europe and start a new production of Jenůfa at the Stockholm Royal Opera. So it's a piece that I've conducted before, but I haven't done it in a while. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I go from there to concerts with the Orchestre de Paris in Paris. And then from there I go to the Vienna State Opera to do a production of Madame Butterfly. And then I have a bit of time off in December, and I come back out to Canada, to Vancouver, to do production of Elisir d'Amore for Vancouver Opera. So that takes me up to January. And then beyond that, it goes on. So I'm not going to go into the big long list. But so it's Stockholm, Paris, Vienna, then back to Vancouver.
Wow. It's going to be a busy schedule.
So it's nice. Yeah,
what
it's
about,
wonderful.
Can you just quickly talk about some of the highlights of your career so far? For you, working with someone in particular, or any really interesting stories that you've had from people you've come across?
Well, yeah, there's some funny stories. Actually, the Yennefer, talking about the Yennefer, the last time I did it, there's a scene at the end of the first act where there's the foreman of the mill. The whole opera takes place around a mill. And the foreman in question, his cue at the end of the first act came up, and there was nobody on stage. And he was sitting in the bar having a beer. And so that was the Yennefer story. And then there was a butterfly story. So I just mentioned I'm going to Vienna to do Butterfly. And there, in the first act as well, the bonzo, he goes boom, cha-cha-san, boom. So the gong comes, boom, nothing happens. And he was sitting at home with his feet up.
I forgot to show up.
Of those, yeah, he didn't even show up for the performance. So I've had a few of those kind of experiences. But the major, the first one, the Paris Opera setting off, I know, that's the sort of thing which, only happens in people's dreams, really. So I'm very lucky. And then I guess recently, I do a lot with the Staatskapelle in Dresden. And so every time, you go to these German houses, repertoire houses, you don't actually rehearse with the orchestra because they've played it so many times, and there's a massive pool of players. And so you turn up, and there's a different person sitting on the front desk, each time you do it. And so you go in there, you shake this person's hand, and think, I haven't met you before. Or, well, let's get up and do it. And so that keeps you really on your toes. So each time you go to these repertoire houses, you have to really have your act together, otherwise it just doesn't work, because you're meeting these people for the first time, and not very often the singers on stage, you haven't met them before either. There have been times when I've turned up and they say, so and so is sick, and you literally don't meet them until you actually perform it. That happens at the Paris Opera. I stood in recently for a production of Rake's Progress, and literally in the afternoon. They rang me up at 2:30 in the afternoon, and the performance was at 7:30. And they said, can you do it? And I hadn't performed the piece in a long time. And I said, well, can you just give me a bit of time to look at the score again? So they rang up 20 minutes later, and I looked at the score, and I thought, I don't remember anything about this. And just, I thought, okay, I'll do it. I said, I'll do it. And then I put the phone down. I thought, what have I done? And I didn't meet the singers until I was performing with them on stage in the Rake's Progress. So that sort of thing happens.
That's tough. That's a big challenge. Sort of it's all about communication, right? Yeah. When you can't communicate before the show and even give them a sense of...
And I didn't know the production either, so I was pointing at people on stage thinking, well, if I throw a cue, somebody's going to get it. So I didn't know, just coming left or right.
Just don't quite point.
Just right. So that sort of thing is quite... It can be nerve-wracking, but it's really very exciting at the same time.
Well, exactly. Yeah. That's what keeps you on your toes, keeps you excited about it.
So this, so this with students has been wonderful, because we've actually had time to rehearse together.
And stay with them for a little while.
With them,
yeah. That's great. Sounds a great experience.
Well, it is. It's wonderful.
Thank you very much for coming in this morning, and have fun. Have fun tonight and the rest of the tour.
Oh, we will. Don't worry.
It's going to be a lot of fun. That's tonight. I'm in conversation with the conductor for tonight's performance, Jonathan Darlington. National Youth Orchestra of Canada is in to perform. And tonight in Winnipeg, and then they're heading off. Well, after today, they've got a day off, apparently. Then Saskatoon, Edmonton, Whitehorse. Go to wso.ca. Tickets are free. You hear that? Tickets are free. So, you almost have to go to this and check it out. And starts at 7:30 tonight. Starts at 7:30 tonight. Classical music mixed in with some modern stuff. Thanks again for coming in this morning.